Okay, boys and girls, let's go to school here. I've been reading on secretsofthefed.com and a couple of other sites. Actually, I'll just open one up just for grins and giggles about this MH370, where they say that passenger sent photo from cell phone, he rammed up his butthole. Yeah, sent from hidden iPhone, and there he landed on Diego Garcia. Alright. And supposedly this guy, let's see, as reported by Stone. Well, you got this guy, yeah, he looks like he might have been in and out of jail. Got that look to him. He might know how to shove a pack of cigarettes up his ass to get him into the jail or something. I don't. His background doesn't indicate that, though. Very seriously doubt that he would have a. Never mind. Anyway, this guy has even changed his article. I am getting even site hacked and photo switched. Okay, so before I get on the part about the EXIF and his original statements, which thankfully Secrets of the Fed and several other sites managed to keep because they had basically copied and pasted his article. As far as site hacked, a 12-year-old, anyone, you don't even need a goddamn username and password. You do not have to break in any laws to get into his shit. If you can get to it from the internet without a username and password, you ain't breaking no laws, and his security is that wimpy. Concern on the image. Now, an iPhone 5 is a fairly new phone, 1395. That's a lot of pictures. I've had this General Dynamics here for a couple of years, and it's only into the 300s. So I broke out an iPhone, which I've also had for a couple of years, and that one's only into the hundreds. For somebody to take a billion, well, actually, that's what? Shitload of numbers. I'm not counting them. And I had this little Sammy for, fuck, I've had this damn thing forever. And I removed the battery. I always remove the battery in this one. But this one was only up to, it was in the 300s. Maybe 400. Which one was in the 400? There's a Motorola over there too. And I broke out a BlackBerry. That I've had that one forever, and it hasn't touched 1,000 yet. So that's an awfully big number for a fairly new phone. Because these iPhones tag them. And he says that you can't edit your EXIF tags. Okay. I call bullshit. Because down here it says, EXIF can't be rewritten with common software. It can only be added to in fields such as image credits and some advanced applications. It can be erased but not changed. I call bullshit. I'm not even going to use an advanced application. This is a raw install of SUSE Linux, fresh off the flash drive. The only difference between it and stock is I got a few extra RPMs from Novell's site that I need for some other shit that's just on my flash drive. I kind of keep one drive for the workstations and another couple of drives for the rest of them. But let's pick a picture at random. And that's the wrong directory to be in. Let's go for the art one. Boom. So I go to plugins. Now I haven't washed this. I just imported these with Digicam from the media server a minute ago. Images. Edit all metadata. Device. Device type. Boom. Light. Adjustments, blah blah. I can change any goddamn thing I want in there. All I have to do is click apply. I don't even have to save the file. This isn't even fancy editing software. It's a damn viewer you do slideshows with. Alright, so let's pick one that doesn't have a V1 behind it. I don't have any that don't have a V1 behind it. Let's just pick one at random. That one's tame enough. Alright, so right click, open with. GIMP. Again, I'm going to stress that I have not washed my tags. Keep. File. Properties. Advanced. I can blank that. There's where I brought it in with Digicam. Camera, Hasselblad, H3D, blah 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 blah. What camera do I want it to be? Ha 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 ha. Are you getting the idea there? Image history. I can edit any damn thing I want. I can delete any damn thing I want. I can change that creator tool. I'll explain that in a second. I can change anything I want. Any way I want. Hit OK, and the shit is there. I don't even have to save it. I don't even have to do an export with it. Now, I said I'd get to it in a minute, so I'm going to get to it in a minute. As far as changing the software tags, the previous editors, well, you see with Linux, which the guy said that he does run, you are able to operate, well, you're able to download the source, number one. Let's just make it simple for you. You're able to download the source. You can build your own RPM or cook it, whichever you prefer to call it. I'm trying to make this to where everybody's going to understand it and not just geeks and nerds. In that line where it says Digicam 3.3.3.5, whatever the hell it says, you can leave that line blank. You can change it to say iOS. You can change the software to say iOS. In fact, open with GIMP again. File, properties. You can even import the XMP tags from another picture. And boom. Open. Okay, so that one doesn't have an XMP packet. Anyway. But you can import an XMP packet from anywhere you want and put it in there. Or you can do like the webcam and porn site girls have been doing for decades, and just compile yourself, say Digicam or KDE Kippy. Download the source RPM, modify that line to blank or to iOS or to my willy's longer than yours. You can change it to say anything you want. The source is freely available right out of the repos. All I have to do, if I want a source RPM, bring it down to my machine so I can play with it, I just go into yahhh. Yeah, I think that's one of them. Go into software management. Another thing I want to do, I can do if I want to get rid of if I want to wash the tags out, is save it as a BMP, that'll wash the tags out, and then load it back in as a JPEG, and then I've only got one tag to take out. And that's the editing software I'm using at the time, which like I said, that can be a blank. You know what? It would be much quicker to just go into Firefox. Just type in the router's not letting them through. Let me change that to dash SRC. Okay, maybe it is quicker through Inst. Options. Show devel packages. Let's go DIGIK. There's my devel package right there. That's all I need. Make my own RPM. Leave that software signature as any way I want. So as far as the guy claiming that picture to be genuine, I call bullshit. For a myriad of reasons. I think it's a shame that that plane went down. That's God's honest truth. I mean, it doesn't affect my life in any way whatsoever. I didn't know any of them people, but yeah, I think it's a shame that that many people went down on a bird. But I also think it's a shame that somebody like that is creating false hope for them people's families or whatever. And as far as it going down on Diego Garcia, yeah, possible, but not very probable. and Secrets of the Fed, they've been hyping, you know, and a couple other sites, they've been hyping up about, oh, Boeing has a patent on remote control system that you can fly that sucker just like you had a RC plane in your backyard. Yeah, well, that's an option. Just like the fucking stereo in your car, if you got the good one, it was an option because, you know, it comes with the cheap shit. I really can't see Malaysian Airlines spending all that extra money for that option. Especially when that option would allow our government to take control of their bird. It doesn't even... That kind of breaks the limit of the limitations of rationality there. It really truly does. And while I can't speak for Rolls-Royce, you know, they said that the engines were monitored for a couple hours after the bird went down, or after all communications and the transponders were lost. They said that Rolls-Royce was monitoring the engines for a couple hours afterwards. Well, let me tell you how that engine monitoring works from a GE perspective that's several years out of date. I mean, when I walked through those rooms, what I saw was, what did I see? I saw a bunch of damn nerds sitting around. Yeah, they'd stare at a screen, half asleep. They weren't watching each individual bird. They knew which birds were up, and unless an alarm went off, that bird did not go to full screen. As far as the position data, that came from the airframe. That didn't come from the engines. The engines gave you altitude. They gave you everything relevant to the engines, RPMs, CFM, internal pressures, internal temperatures. Now, was Rolls-Royce watching that bird all along? You know, them GE boys, if they had something go wrong with an engine, it was the highlight of their week if an oil pressure sensor went bad, or if they had an alarm over oil. It really was. It might have been the highlight of some of their months, because the rest of the time they just kind of sat there drinking coffee and whacking off to the one hot chick that was in the building, because the rest of them were kind of dumpy. And yeah, they'd go out back and smoke a little weed and take turns. One of them would be watching 5 or 6 of their monitors. You better believe if back then they would have had them cell phones like we do now, catching that boy whacking off to that hot chick, that shit would have been all over the internet. But like I say, as far as counting the stock specs on that Boeing bird, I think somebody should look into what was that bird really ordered with, and you should look into, did it have extended range tanks? And as far as blaming the CIA or DIA, either or, it's too sloppy for them. Those people would have never made it to the ground if it was an op by either of them. TSA, or I'm sorry, NSA or DOJ, yeah, they've got folks that are that sloppy, you know, thinking, well, let's make it look like it's another military, but that's not very likely. Okay, NSA, I wouldn't put anything past them. I wouldn't put a damn thing past them. But that would be more the style of Iraq or Lebanon. Iran even. You'd expect that from Central Americans. Okay, let's land them on the ground and then we'll pretend that we're this, that, and the other. And we'll keep them hostage or something, or we'll make them think that we're foreign nationals from another military, and it'll all get blamed on them, and we'll have an excuse to start a war or whatever. We'll have an excuse to whine to the UN. It doesn't even smell like CIA or DIA. And the only time that they would be that sloppy is if they wanted it to look like someone else, and there would be, it stretches the realm of necessity. I mean, if they wanted to jack a bird, they don't even have to jack one. It stretches the realm of logic for Malaysian Airlines to order an option on a bird. And it is the key word there. It's an option. It's not a mandatory thing on Boeing. Boeing will build you a bird any damn way you want them to. I mean, they'll make sure that the airframe is intact and that you got enough engine power for that airframe. But as far as the rest of the options go, you get what you order. What was that bird ordered with? A little basic logic will tell you it probably wasn't ordered with something that our government could take over the bird with. Little basic logic will tell you that since Malaysian Airlines does self-maintenance, they do hire contractors. It's not very likely that a system of that scale could have gotten into the bird without somebody noticing. It stretches the realms of logic because, like I said earlier about the GE boys, these Rolls-Royce boys, if something would have happened to where they had positional data on where that bird was, you better believe one of them fuckers would have been leaking it out on his cell phone. You'd have seen that shit on Twitter. Because that's not a secure facility. It's not a government facility. Granted, some of them do have clearances, but most of them, yeah, there it is. You know, they joke about it. They fucking, they're chatterboxes all day long because they're bored. I mean, they're chatterboxes on social media. They're chatterboxes on their own little mini blogs, micro blogs, whatever you want to call them. So show me one of those screens from Rolls-Royce where they've got positional data, because I went through a bunch of their advertising hype and couldn't find any. And if I remember correctly from GE, the positional data actually came from the airframe, not from the engine. So if you knocked out the systems on the bird, and therein lies another thing. If you knocked out those systems on that bird, to knock out that many systems at once, granted you could power them off, but what about the cell phones? Why do they make you shut off cell phones when you go on a bird? What would a white noise generator do as far as jamming? And that's all you'd need. You would not need a specific frequency jammer. You would just need a little simple circuit and a battery. Enough to drown out. Have you ever keyed down a CB radio and your buddy's radio was weaker and your other buddy was able to hear you and not him? Are you getting the point? Have you ever keyed down a CB radio with a linear amplifier on it and reset the clock on your VCR? Because I have. I've even opened up my neighbor's garage door. Hell, I had one neighbor lady thought I was God when I had a bad, poorly tuned SWRs on one antenna. She thought I was God coming over her TV. And she was a good eighth of a mile away. Because that house I had 16 acres. She had at least 20. Her property was bigger than mine, and her house was on the other edge of her property. Mine was about in the center. That'll give you an idea of the distance between the two houses. They weren't but about 5,000 square feet apiece. I know for a fact mine was 5,200. And as far as making a simple jammer circuit like that, you know, what would you need? A battery, diode. You wouldn't even really need a high-speed switching transistor, you know, like, say, TO220 Charlie 1969. I'm just using one off the popular HF chip just off the top of my head for a joke. You wouldn't even need anything like that. I mean, a 15-year-old can make a simple white noise generator is all you would need. A nice broad spectrum, jam any goddamn thing and just bleed power all over the place with you get the idea. And you could do it with an APC battery. Wouldn't take much. So that does tell you that the systems inside the bird were shut off, but the monitoring systems inside the engines were not shut off. As far as those birds shutting their engines off, if something's wrong, they don't do that until they're on the ground, if everything's working right. And I don't know, I'm quite a few years out of date, but I doubt it would be Rolls shutting it off when it got on the ground. I think the engine does that on its own. If there's an error condition, I believe those computers in the Rolls wouldn't have to do shit. All they'd have to do is land that bird, and that engine would shut off once it's safely on the ground. And that would just be over temperature sensor, oil sensor, any damn thing. You know, any error condition I think shuts them down. I'm not really sure. I'm not familiar with the Rollses, and I'm way out of date on the GEs. But y'all all got your conspiracy theories, and as far as that guy's little picture, yeah, that's definitely busted. Because like I said, he does admit that he runs Linux, and it's ridiculously easy to download a source RPM and leave the software tag blank. It's ridiculously easy to import the XMP from another fucking file. And if he's just looking at the EXIF itself, like I say, wash the file before you open it and change the descriptor line in your code after you download the source RPM. I mean, I guess they're deval packages now, but you know what I mean. Really, you could download a tarball and just open it up, modify it, do a make, cook the bitch. It wouldn't take much, and there are EXIF editors out there, also readily available right through SUSE, right through fucking Ubuntu, right through any damn thing. Well, Windows I don't know about, but I think what he was depending on is Windows idiots not knowing that there's real software out there. And as far as his site getting hacked, you don't have to hack it. His site's a fucking joke. So we'll call him busted. And a few other things busted, but because like I say, I mean, he went right on to try and blame Israel for the tsunami, the nuclear reactor going down, and it wasn't it wasn't Israel. Again, the only way Israel would be that sloppy is if they wanted it to look like somebody else, and you better believe if those Mossad boys wanted it to look like somebody else did it, it fucking would. Just like if the CIA wanted to make it look like somebody else did it, it fucking would. So anyway, that's my thought, that's my opinion. You're welcome to express yours. That's mine. Well, holler at y'all later.